you spend more time thinking about it and researching it and supporting people with this, and you love this more than writing curriculum, which every once in a while I still do if people ask and I know them well, but this is what's important to me. And I see the growth and I see the light in people's eyes when they're in spaces with other Black folks that understand their journey, you know?
Well, the thing is, I feel that your curriculum writing experience and background probably really does help inform the programming that you're creating, because you know how to create programming for your cohorts. It just
Yeah, it goes together really beautifully in the curriculum that we've written for the cohort and really for our workshops and webinars does come from Dr. Ellie and I both being educators, right? But that all that comes very, like you said, I've been doing it for so long that thinking about a curriculum that makes sense, that has these threads that we need to talk about healing, it makes it much easier to have a background in education. At least for me, it does.
yeah. Well, you've used the terms racism related stress
Racism related
and
stress,
racial
battle
battle
fatigue.
fatigue.
Yeah,
Would you talk a little bit about those terms and explain what they are?
sure. So racism related stress it's a manifestation of racism in the ways that it shows up. So there's 6 different manifestations of racism, and Lord knows that my brain's going to forget one of them. But basically, there's the generational transmission of group trauma. So the ways that we think about racism coming through the generations. So when I talk about that, I always talk about Brown versus Board and how that impacted Black educators. We have contextual racism, which is like racism that happens in the context of something. Like for example, in Colorado, we're finding that Black educators in early childhood are paid around $3.50 less than their Black or brown or their white or brown counterparts just because they're in the ECE, right? Same education status, same zip code that they're teaching in, $3. And we already know ECE is underpaid, right? And then we have microaggressions, which we're very familiar with, which is that those constant slights. We also have, and so now you're making me do my stretching my brain. They'll come to me. But the point is, there's like 6 different ways that racism shows up. And we know that happens all the day long. It's happening to us in our community. It's happening in the workplace, right? And racial battle fatigue is the ways that our bodies respond to racism, right? Racial battle fatigue is not racism, it's our body's response to it. So we're talking about the context of being underpaid. We're talking about Brown versus Board. We're talking about all these things. And then it shows up in our bodies with irritability, increased drinking, increased smoking, panic attacks, hives, hair loss, resentment, right? These are all the ways that how we respond to it. And the reason why Dr. Smith, who coined that term, talked about it being racial battle fatigue is because our bodies are responding as if we were in war, right? So it's the same type of experience. It's a trauma. And so that is what that's what racism related stress is, and that's what racial battle fatigue is. Racism related stress is racism, right? Racial battle fatigue is how our bodies respond to it. And the time it takes coping with that. The 10 minutes of thinking about it in the car, the 20 minutes laying in bed, can't sleep, the 2 hours rehearsing what you're going to say next time you talk to that person, right? On and on and on, how all the minutes and hours that add up for us to cope with this stress, whether that's, like I said, it's the drinking, the smoking, the increased spirituality, all of these things. Mm-hmm.
So what are some methods for individuals going through racial battle fatigue to cope with it?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think that selfishly, I always say the first thing that I would say is find community. And I know that people think about affinity groups in their workplace as a place for that, but that's not necessarily the case. And I say that because a lot of times our affinity group spaces at work are run by people at work who are not going to tell you it's time for you to leave this job, or this is who you should report to, and here are all the steps, right? Because that person also has to keep their job. And so I would say that one of the things that I think that people should do is find a healing and wellness spaces either online or in person, with folks who understand their lived experience, right? And this is especially for those who are not prepared or not ready for therapy or want something beyond therapy or can't afford it at this moment. There's something about places that are not therapy, but therapeutic, that can be really healing for people, especially if they're consistent once a month, every 2 months, or excuse me, every 2 weeks or something like that. So you know it's gonna come up soon. It's consistent. The people who are there are typically always there. So I think that's one thing that we should consider. Dr. Smith came on the podcast and he talked about being in nature. Like, what does it mean to be in nature, to move slowly, put our feet in the sand, and just like take some time for rest. He also talked about having our homes be examples of Black love and Black excellence. So if you ever see Dr. Smith on YouTube or anything, his background is like African art and paintings and things like that, right? And that's something that works for him. Dr. Sean Jenright came on the show and he talked about this need to microdose wellness, which means basically small amounts of wellness all day. So yes, of course we need a vacation. Yes, of course we need retreats. Yes, of course, like all those things are great, but we can also just drink water, right? We can also, and I was just talking to someone about this yesterday. We were having the same conversation and she said when she was an assistant principal, her ankles stayed ashy. She was such a rush to she didn't put on lotion in the morning. Dry. So what does it mean to take that lotion and go all the way down to the big toe? Kick them, right? Even that, like lotioning our body is microdosing wellness. We should not be walking out of our house with dry ankles, right? That counts as wellness. And I know,
I know. I'm like, yeah, I've done that. Sometimes I forgot to put makeup on even.
Yeah, because we're always running. So like, that's a beautiful example of between now and the vacation to wherever you're going to go, put the lotion on, throw on the earrings if that makes you feel good, whatever it is. But we have to take back some of this time that's being stolen from us by saying, no, I'm going to drink my coffee at home. Or no, I'm going to stop by the whatever and pick up this thing before I rush off to work. I'm not going to jump out of my car and run into my office. I'm just going to move slowly and intentionally. And that's a way to be well as well.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for those tips.
Yeah.
So who's your target market? Is it mainly K through 12 currently, or are there higher ed academics or educators that are also involved within your cohort?
Yeah, that's a great question. So for the cohort right now, it's early childhood educators, paraprofessionals, school psychs, all the way to principals. What we're really working on is we want to kind of back up and support pre-service educators. Yeah. So when I was in grad school, I taught a pre-service teacher class at the CU Denver. And at CU Denver, I had maybe out of the 6 semesters that I taught, 3 Black women maybe. And all of them were experiencing racism when they were placed in their classes at the school district, right?
Of course.
To get their hours. And so they would come to me because I'm the only Black person that they know at the university at that time. And like, this is happening. Is it just me? And I'm like, no, that's racism. And so try to talk to them. And one person asked me, will I experience racism when I become an educator? The answer is, of course you will.